special performance, Etienne de la Botier squared. He was also on the Funnel 3 and did a live presentation as well and had Mark Passio on as a guest, and that was fantastic. And now he's back live again in Acapulco, Mexico. So this is going to be a treat. This is going to be exciting. Let me grab his bio. He is the Art of Liberty Foundation, also the publisher of Government, the Biggest Scam in History, which is fantastic book that everyone should have. The ultimate goal is an effort we call the Pre-State Project, the Free State Project, which we would drop 100,000 copies of Government, the Biggest Scam, an upcoming companion book, and Voluntaryism, how the only ism fair for everyone leads to harmony and prosperity for all. So Etienne, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away, my man.
It is great to be with you and great to be with the funnel audience. As you mentioned, I'm coming to you guys from Acapulco. You can hear some birds, in the background. We've got a little watch party here going on with people from around the world. We've got Korea, we've got the UK, we've got other people, other countries represented. I'll just kind of give y'all like a quick gander at kind of where my backdrop and my set is, today, and where we're coming to you from. But my talk, and you'll have to excuse me, I'm going to go back and forth from the shade to the sun because we are in the equatorial climb here. But my talk here today is voluntaryism, the only political ism that respects natural law. Just a quick background on yourself. A lot of it was just mentioned. I'm the founder of the Art of Liberty Foundation. I'm the author of a book called Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed. I'm in a future past life. I was a technology entrepreneur and operating executive. I've been a consultant to Fortune 25, 100, 500 companies. I used to work on Wall Street. I ran a national third-party political campaign. I worked at one of the big four think tanks in DC, and I was a member of Washington, DC, Maryland, and Nova's largest CEO network. I'm best known for the book Government, the Biggest Scam in History, where I make the case that government is kind of best thought of as a technique for robbing and controlling populations. And it's always illegitimate because it's impossible to have a legitimate and moral and ethical and logical government. And for one of the reasons is it violates natural law and it is inherent and immoral on the face of it. And the subtitle of the book is How Intergenerational Organized Crime Runs the Government, the Media, and Academia. And kind of my main message there is it's the government partnered with a monopoly media system that is running where you've got six kind of old school monopoly media companies running hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of subsidiaries to give everybody the illusion that there's all these different media, voices in the media. But really they all, go up to the small kind of handful of media companies operating as a cartel. And on the new media side, you've got, about 30, 40 new media company search engines, social media sites, Wikipedia, others that are algorithmically censoring information on the what I like to call the DARPA internet. And that's really the main thing that's against us is this control of perception that is putting on every screen that the government is legitimate, that it's desirable, that it's necessary. And the last one is the academia, and in the government's mandatory schools, they're teaching you that government is legitimate, desirable, and necessary before you're really old enough to evaluate the logic and morality of that claim. And so what I wanted to do today, just to get started, because I know that this is going to be kind of simple for the funnel audience, but, for my audience, which we're going to, syndicate this content to, I wanted to just, take a second and give what I like to call the basic overview of natural law, which is a set of universal, non-man-made, binding, and immutable conditions that govern the consequences of human behavior. And there's essentially 5 basic breaches of natural law. There's assault, rape, theft, trespass, and coercion. And all of these transgressions are a theft of some sort. Theft is theft, but rape is the theft of sexual choice. Trespass is the theft of physical security in your lair. Murder is the theft of life. And all of these are obviously wrong because there's somebody that has been hurt. There's a victim that has been victimized somehow by that transgression. And so those are obviously wrongs. And a lot of people have heard the term, I have a right to do this. I have a right to own a gun. I have a right to free speech. I have a right to that, without ever really understanding what the word right means. And also in the natural law tradition, a right is anything that's not a wrong. And so if you're going to go against natural law, you're going to suffer the karma of that. So really understanding the basics of natural law so that you can keep yourself on the right side of morality, the right side of ethics, the right side of karma is in everyone's best interest. And so I wanted to just kind of break down a little bit about the difference between natural law and political law, which I like to call politician scribbles. I stole that, I think, from Lark and Rose. But natural law is logical. A right is an action which does not harm anybody else, and a wrong is anything that's not a right. And so you could actually even break it down even tighter than the meme. Just do no harm in the universe to others, and everybody can understand that. That's self-evident, that's aligned with nature. That's 100% moral, and it's so easy that even a kindergartner can understand it. We don't hit people, we don't take their things. And so, very, very, something that everybody can get behind. It's universally applicable to everybody. There are no special privileges for some at the expense of others. Now, when we compare that to political law, well, political law is created by humans, and it's frankly through an easily manipulated political process. It's frequently self-contradictory, whether, gambling is okay in this jurisdiction, but it's not okay in 5 miles away in this jurisdiction, or you can smoke a plant right here, but if you go across this line, now you're a criminal. And so it doesn't make sense, and it frequently ignores universal moral principles where the enforcers are using violence on kind of on peaceful people to either raise revenue on their friends, their neighbors, whoever, or to inflict the moral commandments of one group on the rest of society. It frequently restricts individual sovereignty and self-ownership, and there's hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million laws, rules, and regulations in the United States alone at the federal, state, and local level. Now, I mentioned that government is illegitimate, immoral, and illogical on its face. And so, just to break it down, as simple as you can get, if John told you that you had to obey him or he would violate you, well, that would be wrong. And even if John and a couple of his friends come over and they say, because he and his friends are in the majority and there's 3 of him and 1 of you, and you have to obey him or them and be punished, that would still be wrong. And so even if John and his friends are able to trick, indoctrinate, propagandize, and pay off enough people to vote for an institution to work on their behalf, and they all claim that you must obey its dictates or be punished, it would still be wrong. And if you can, understand this basic concept, then you really do understand that government neither has the legitimate or the lawful right to violate you just because some people decided to vote for it in a political ritual. Now, if you're not going to have government, if you're not going to have democracy, if you're not going to have monarchy, if you're not going to have a constitutional republic, because a constitutional republic is immoral and illegitimate on its face, then what is that? What is the alternative? And the alternative is something known popularly as voluntaryism. And I like to say it's the only political ism that is aligned with natural law. It's the only political ism that is fair for everybody. It is the only political ism that keeps you on the right side of morality and the right side of ethics. You're not voting violence on your neighbors. You're not trying to impose a ruler on your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues who may disagree. And the basics of voluntarism is it's the common sense idea that all relationships between human beings must be voluntary. Nobody has rights that other people don't. Nobody has an exception for morality. Nobody has the ability to use violence on anybody else. And it recognizes that the world is a self-organizing system, and it's a spontaneous order, and that everything that the government does, most of what the government does is provide services, whether that service is delivering the mail or air traffic control or running a horribly bad investment, old age investment scheme, pension scheme, armed protective services that they call the police, dispute resolution that they call the courts. Well, all of these services could be and would be better provided by the free market, by mutual aid societies, by armed protective service companies, by dispute resolution providers that don't have a monopoly, by nonprofits, co-ops, homeowners associations, and genuine charities, if the government wasn't holding a gun to their head and saying only we can produce these services. Now, what your teacher and what the media would lead you to believe about the political spectrum is that you've got communism on the left, and then you've got fascism on the right, and between communism and fascism are Democrats, moderates, and Republicans, okay? But really, the reality of the political spectrum is you've got communism and fascism, which are kind of total government on the left, and then you progress through socialism, liberalism, moderates, conservatives, libertarians, until you get to voluntarism, which is total freedom or real freedom. And when I say real freedom, I'm underlining real freedom. I'm highlighting real freedom. I'm bolding real freedom. I'm putting it in italics to denote there's a difference between what most people, think of as freedom in the United States, especially in quote unquote free countries in the Western world, and what really is freedom. And real freedom is that there's not a group in society that has an exemption from morality that gets to use violence and extortion on other people. That it really is and luckily real freedom delivers the goods. Now, here's another visualization just to kind of give you an idea of what the political landscape is. And so total tyranny on the far left, the Maos, the Hitlers, the Stalins. You've got Kamala Harris and Donald Trump kind of in the middle. If you go a little closer towards real freedom, you get Ron Paul. If you go all the way to real freedom, I use myself as an example of an advocate of real freedom. But that's really the real political spectrum, and the Overton window, that is generated by weaponized control of perception, monopoly media, traps everybody in this like little bubble of you can either have Donald Trump or you can have Kamala Harris, and both of them are nowhere near real freedom. And so one more way of kind of understanding, where this voluntarism fits on the political spectrum. This is, it's not a left-right chart. It doesn't like the media would have you think there's the left and there's the right, and there's only these two choices. You can have Kamala on the left or you can have Donald Trump on the right. But really, the political system is much better thought of in this chart known as popularly as the Nolan chart, popularized by the advocates for self-government. You can take their world's smallest political quiz on their website, and there's 5 questions that check out your personal issues of how you want freedom, how much freedom you desire, and then there's 5 questions that ask you, how much economic freedom that you desire. And if you like a lot of economic freedom and little personal freedom, well, that would kind of make you a conservative, right? Because conservatives and Republicans, they want low taxation and they want low business regulations, but they're not, you can't be having gambling in certain jurisdictions. You can't have people smoking plants. So we've got to limit personal freedom, and that puts you on the right. That's makes sense. All right. If you're on the left, you like a lot of personal freedom. Like, everybody should be free to gamble as long as they're not hurting anybody. Everybody should be free to, smoke a plant as long as they're not hurting anybody, where it is. But we got to control business. We got to, tax the rich. We've got to, redistribute money. And so very little economic freedom, and that puts them on the left. Well, what if you're for maximum economic, and what if you're for maximum personal freedom? Well, and you're at the top of the pyramid and you're voluntarist. Now, a little bit different is I created a chasm in between the voluntary quadrant and the libertarian quadrant, and the thing that separates voluntarism from all the other political isms is that voluntarists do not believe that government is legitimate, desirable, and necessary. And so everybody in the lower quadrants, they believe that government is legitimate, desirable, and necessary. And most voluntarists or anarcho-capitalists or peaceful anarchists would say that government is illegitimate, undesirable, and unnecessary. Now, how does that tie to the real world politically? Well, minarchists, so on the chart on the right here, minarchists, they're okay with acting violently on peaceful people to acquire fire protection and police and the military and roads and courts. But that's all they think that the violence should be used for. Conservatives, they'll expand the violence to unemployment insurance, retirement insurance, limited health care, limited housing, education, but that's all the violence should be used for. Socialists add health care. Communists, they're willing to use violence on people to acquire housing, food, energy, and clothing. And then voluntarists are at the bottom, and they're not willing to use violence against peaceful people. They will seek to acquire desired services through voluntary relationships. And so now, luckily, amazingly, the good news message that I bring everybody in the audience to today is that the free market provides a lot of things that the government does for free. There's economic mechanisms in place that provide these things for free, so that a lot of people, when they think that you have to have government to provide public goods, au contraire, you do not really need that, because the market and market mechanisms are providing these. So a couple of these are spontaneous order, which is really the idea that the world is a self-organizing system. Order emerges out of disorder or out of chaos kind of naturally in a market process, because people want essentially the same things in life, and the market will enable people acting freely in their own best interests to provide things for society without having to rob and to steal from people. And so spontaneous order is a key one. The invisible hand is best Adam Smith. It's not the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. And so New York City wakes up to hot bagels and hot coffee every morning, not because the baker and the barista love them, but the baker and the barista want to trade their labor for employment, and or they're entrepreneurs that want to provide, have a dream about having a bakery and thought that they could do it better than somebody else, and so they started a bakery, and they provide the luxuries and the necessities of life to the population. In exchange, they're remunerated. They are able to earn a living. They're able to put food on their table for their kids and their family because of this market mechanism. Now, market competition is the idea that, okay, there's these entrepreneurs in the marketplace that want to sell you bagels and coffee, but market competition tempers their ability to want to charge $25 a cup for the coffee and $25 a piece for the bagel, with the fact that other bakers and other coffee shops are willing to sell it at a kind of fair market price. And this market competition tempers the entrepreneur's desire to maximize his revenue. And for the most part, you're going to pay the same for gasoline. In major markets, it gets different when you get away from the market competition, but it's a market mechanism that keeps everybody honest and keeps prices essentially low without the need for government intervention. The price mechanism is the idea that prices are really important in society, that prices are sending signals to other market participants and other economic participants on what the true value of the inputs and the outputs are, whether that input is clear, whether that input is plywood. And so an example to use is, FEMA steals billions of dollars of everybody and doesn't necessarily get the aid to people that need it in a hurricane. But the price mechanism, when a hurricane is headed for Florida or Acapulco or wherever, the cost of plywood goes astronomical, and people all over, without any kind of central intervention, began rushing plywood, to Acapulco or Florida to ensure that Acapulco and Florida have plywood. Now, the cost is, some people would go, but they're charging these incredible costs. No, the market is saying we've got a small amount of plywood go around. What are the places that it gets to first? In a fair way that is encouraging the good thing of people bringing plywood at the same time, and it kind of balances out and it rushes plywood to where it's needed. Capital formation is the idea that entrepreneurs in the market that understand their own businesses and their own industries are really the best ones to invest their capital in new businesses. It's not state-run businesses. The government frequently loses billions and billions of dollars. Solyndra was a great example of green energy that lost $500 million. And so when individual entrepreneurs that understand, when they invest, those businesses produce jobs and they produce profits. The profits are reinvested in charities and in new businesses, and there's economic growth. And the people that really are best to direct that growth are the individual entrepreneurs that understand their industries and in the best position to make these kind of investments. The discipline of constant dealings is another kind of one of my favorite examples of the market mechanism. And the discipline of constant dealings is, a lot of business people, they could cheat you, right? The guy at the gas station, he may jigger with the pump so that you will get 0.90 gallons of gasoline instead of the full gallon. Or a guy running a day could take a water hose and stick it in the milk tank and be making, watering down the milk. Or there's a gazillion examples of how market participants could cheat you on a daily basis. But for the most part, guess what? Most merchants, and there are examples of people that don't, but for the most part, most market participants are honest in the marketplace, because they know that if people find out that they are cheating, then nobody's going to buy their gas and nobody's going to buy their milk, and they're going to go out of business. And so that discipline of constant dealings keeps merchants honest, without there having to be a government oversight, to monitor the marketplace. Innovation and productivity improvements. If it wasn't for the crooked monetary system, where the monetary system has given the banks the ability to engage in something called fractional reserve banking, where when you go to a bank to get a commercial loan or a car loan or a mortgage, they're not loaning you depositor money. They just tickle the keys and they credit your account with digital dollars, and you spend the rest of your life paying off a mortgage that was created out of thin air. That system is inflationary, and that system is stealing the value out of everybody's money in a way that very few people realize. Absent the monetary system, innovations and productivity improvements should be making everything that you buy cheaper every single year. Your dollar should be buying more every single year if the banks weren't stealing the value out of the money using fractional reserve banking in a way that most people don't really understand. And one example that I like to use, do I have it in here? I might have it in here later on, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. Is a giant sail that ocean-going ships can put on a ship that didn't used to have a sail. It's a mechanical, sail. It's run by computers, and it saves on one type of phone 3.3 tons of fuel a day. And these are the kind of innovations and productivity improvements that lower the cost of shipping things across the sea, so that the shippers that have the sail can offer a discount. They can get more shipping business. That discount gets passed on to their customers. The customer might pass it on to the consumer, and that reduces the cost of the luxuries and necessities of life. And these are just a few of the market mechanisms that provide these public goods for free. Now, at the same time that the market everybody richer and improving everybody's life, government is simultaneously making everyone poor. And some of these ways that government makes poor are monopolies. I gave this same speech at the People's Set in Morelia, Mexico. We shipped books from my distribution center in New Hampshire to Memphis, Tennessee, which is not that far. We gave them 10 days to get it there. They took 11. And so I did not have copies of Government, the Biggest Scam in History exposed to sell at the People's Reset. And that monopoly provider cost me, somewhere between $750 and $1,000. The book is always the best-selling book at every conference that we go to. Almost always the best-selling book. It's been the best-selling book. So we would have made, made $750 to $1,000 for the Art of Liberty Foundation, and instead we lost it because of the monopoly that the Postal Service has. As one example of how just a real life example of how monopolies hurt businesses. Economic misallocation is when dollars are taken out of the economy away from entrepreneurs that would invest them in new businesses, new technologies that would improve humanity, and money is wasted in unnecessary warfare, for wars based on lies and manufactured intelligence in places of the world that we don't need to be. Subsidies are when government takes money. We gave the example of Solyndra spends money on your behalf, props up inefficient providers or technology that people don't really want. Ethanol is an example. People really don't want ethanol in their gas, but there's a subsidy that makes it, that is giving certain market participants money at the expense of other market participants and causing a misallocation in the market. Price and capital control, central planning, inflationary monopoly money, tariffs and trade barriers, imports and export quotas, bailouts and subsidies for failing businesses. William Henry Harrison said it best: I believe that all measures of the government are directed to the purpose of making the rich richer and the poor poorer. And most people just don't understand how the government intervention makes them. Now, the other thing is that the government's waste, fraud, and abuse is legendary. New York City paid $2 million for a 4-toilet park bathroom. So they built very famously built a park bathroom in New York that had only 4 toilets. They paid $2 million for it. San Francisco paid $1.7 million for a single 150 square foot toilet. Okay, the Pentagon has been caught paying $1,200 for coffee cups, $75,000 for ladders, $170 for flashlights, $13,900 for a crew chief's chair, $400,000 for the helmets that an F-35 pilot uses, $10,000 for toilet seats. There's a picture of Florida Congressman Mike Waltz confronting Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall on why the Air Force is spending $90,000 for a bag of bushings that would cost about $100. And so it's absolutely incredible. Now, people don't know this, but this spontaneous order, this self-organization, would this really work, Etienne? Would this really work? Would the market actually self-organize very complicated things? And the fact is, it's already doing it right now. And so, like everything that you buy in a grocery store, I'm using the cell phone as an example, but the cell phone is an example of hundreds of different companies that come together to produce a cell phone. Okay, some people make the glass, some people make the plastic, some people make the Wi-Fi transceiver, some people make the battery technology, some people, make the software. There is no, one company that makes it. There is no top-down, government bureau that directs the, everything that these companies are doing. It's all happening in a self-organizing system. It's coordinating the actions of millions of, frequently, some of these supply chains are millions of people on 6 continents without any coercion, where everyone is compensated for their contribution. Cars, computers, smartphones, bookstores, airlines, movies are also examples of large-scale supply chains, complex organization without central control. So it's not something that's pie in the sky. It's something that's going on really all around you, including this organic, grassroots, spontaneous order is producing public goods. And so Underwriter Laboratories is certifying electronic equipment for safety, government mandates. The Ocean Cleanup Project is removing plastics from the rivers and the oceans in a private initiative. The Non-GMO Project is certifying non-GMO ingredients where the government wouldn't. So there was a government failure. Government is, through a well-recognized dynamic called regulatory capture, was unwilling to force companies to tell you that their garbage food was genetically modified, organisms. And so the market came in where the government failed, and now I don't buy grains unless it's certified, non-GMO. Consumer Reports tests and reviews just about everything. And I'll talk about the North Main Woods here in a second. Rural Metro Fire provides private fire protection, EMS, rescue, and medical aid at vehicle accidents, and even wildland fire protection. Detroit Threat Management provides cost-effective armed protective services in Detroit, where the monopoly police are notoriously inefficient and corrupt. And we'll talk about NAV Canada here in a bit. Kiva provides crowdsourced loans to entrepreneurs. They provided over, I think it's $2 billion worth of loans to startups, the same way the small business example does. The first time that I gave this talk, I was in Sedona for our Liberty on the Rocks conference, which you can find all the archives at sedona.artofliberty.org. Where we were, talking about this. And when I roll into town, I did some advertising in the local newspaper. And so I signed up for an email blast, and I learned that Sedona had just spent $1.5 million to construct 8 outdoor pickleball courts. So I was shocked, as everyone is probably shocked, to find that they spent $1.5 million to build some pickleball courts. So I called a buddy of mine that I know in Memphis, Tennessee, that actually has a private pickleball paradise called Willow Grove Pickleball Paradise. And I asked him how much he'd spent to build Walnut Grove Pickleball Paradise. And what he told me was the cost to construct 6 outdoor courts plus 2 bathrooms, lights, and fencing was less than $100,000. So he's currently building 5 more indoor courts, climate-controlled courts, that he will pay between $325,000 and $350,000 for. He charges $5 to play all day. You can come and go, as you wish. If you buy a monthly or a yearly package, it gets even cheaper than that. If you don't have money, he's going to let you pay for free. Okay, and so he for 1/3 of what the city of Sedona spent, less than 1/3 of what the city of Sedona spent, he's providing the exact same service. He's actually providing a better service. It's cooler. The grounds are better. He's got a lake. He's got horses and mules that'll come up and let you pet them. He's got dozens of different exotic kinds of exotic chickens roaming the place. It really is a paradise. So he's providing a better service with more courts, the exact same service in the sense that he will let you play for free if you can't afford it. And so without any waste, fraud, abuse, or extortion, and also where is this money going. We did some math. If you had 4 paddles for each of Sedona's courts and they were all made out of solid gold, it would only be $700,000. So where did this $1 million disappear to provide these 8 pickleball courts? I'd mentioned NAV Canada. A lot of people don't realize this, but Canada privatized air traffic control. So, pickleball, that's easy, Etienne. What about something complicated the government does, like air traffic control? Well, NAV Canada, Canada privatized their air traffic control in 1996. Through a sale to a privately run nonprofit called NAV Canada. It's the world's second largest air navigation provider by traffic volume. They have 1,900 air traffic controllers, 650 flight service specialists, 700 technologists and computer programmers. They coordinate the activities of 12 million aircraft movements a year. They've got 40,000 customers, airlines, private pilots, airfields, etc. They cover 18 million square kilometers. They have 42 control towers. It really doesn't matter what it is. The market has the ability to self-coordinate the most complicated things. Well, what about the poor, the needy, the disadvantaged? What about like people that, break their arm in the job in the coal mine or, something like that? Well, a lot of people didn't understand this, but before the government came in with this cash welfare system, which has a lot of problems with its incentives and a lot of problems in turning a safety net into a hammock for people that aren't interested in contributing to society in a kind of meaningful way. Well, these mutual aid societies used to provide the exact same benefits as the government's welfare program. They provided unemployment insurance. They provided disability health insurance. They provided old age pensions. And there was something known as lodge practice, where the mutual aid societies would hire doctors to work on their behalf. The doctors would make house calls. The doctors worked directly for the mutual aid society. They were part of the mutual aid society. They were a member of the mutual aid society. So their interests are completely aligned with the interests of their patients in a way that the current monopoly medical system is not. And so medical care used to be a lot cheaper, and you didn't have to worry about the doctor having an incentive, a financial incentive to inject your child with vaccines or some of the other, problems that we have with monopoly AMA, first dollar healthcare insurance. And get this, the mutual aid societies competed with each other to see who could offer better benefits for their members. So the Rotary Club didn't want you going to the Elks, and the Elks didn't want you. So they had to compete on who offered better benefits. And so you can see how the market provides better outcomes than the top-down government system at the point of the gun. Etienne, what about the environment? Without government, there wouldn't be national parks and state parks, and there wouldn't be, people protecting the environment. Au contraire, mon frere, yet again. And so a lot of people don't realize this, but there's an area in Maine, you can see it there on the right. It's called the North Maine Woods. It's 3.5 million acres of privately protected forest in Maine. Mostly it's timber companies, but there's private landowners, there's conservation areas that have already been kind of bought and set off as strictly conservation areas. That are all managed together by the North Maine Woods. It's twice the size of Massachusetts, okay? And it has all of the amenities that you would expect from a national park or state park. You can go hiking, you can go camping, you can go four-wheeling, you can go snowmobiling, you can go hunting at essentially the equivalent prices of a state park or national park. So the market has the ability to protect resources, to protect the land, and to make it available to people without the government as well. Now, voluntaryism doesn't mean that there isn't any organization. And again, I'm not just like checking, cherry picking, a certain pickleball, the cheapest pickleball court in the United States that I could find. Okay, I just called the only person that I knew that had a pickleball court. This is an example of where I used to live in Ashburn, Virginia. This is in the kind of the tech corridor outside of Washington D.C. in Northern Virginia. It was a planned community called Ashburn Village. We had 1,500 acres. We had 5,000 residential units. We had 15,000 residents in this planned community, and we had 4 recreation centers. We had 4 outdoor pools. We had 1 indoor pool. We had a full weight room, over a dozen outdoor tennis courts, 4 indoor tennis courts, a full gymnasium, indoor, outdoor basketball courts, weight room, sauna, steam room, and all of it was paid for through your dues. So the private community was providing all of the things that like a lot of times the government provides, but it was doing so privately. Now, the roads were managed by the city, but that doesn't mean that the village wouldn't have or couldn't have, through the homeowners association, managed the roads and other things. And so that is just, again, another example of, like, you don't have it. I'm actually headed here at the end of the month. I'm going to Prospera to check this out for myself and to get on the ground. But even at the country level, a lot of people don't realize this. In Honduras, on the island of Rorotan, is what's known as kind of a free private city, where they have where some individual business people negotiated a 50-year sovereignty with the government of Honduras. And so on this 1,000+ acres, they have their own free private city where the laws and the tax rates don't apply in this area. And so they have got some of the strongest private property protections, at the same time as they have some of the lowest tax rates anywhere. It's a 5% flat tax on gross income for individuals, and an effective additional 1% flat tax on gross income for legal entities. They operate a high-end resort called St. John's Bay. They've got the tallest residential building in Honduras. They have an 18-hole Pete Dye designed golf course. They've got private villas, a Bitcoin center, a scuba shop, among kind of other amenities. And they've had 200+ businesses that have either located there. They've got this old figure that $120 million invested to date, but they're organizing a government at the same level as a regular government. They're doing it privately. They're doing it at a lower cost than any other government on the planet. And so all of these things could be delivered. I guess, to kind of end things up, the good news message is that more freedom equals more prosperity. And so these are some charts and graphs from some scholarship done by the Fraser Institute, a think tank in Canada, called Economic Freedom in the World. And what they do is they measure the degree of economic freedom and personal freedom that various countries have around the planet, and then they measure the countries against each other. And so what you're seeing is in the green, the dark green is the 10% or the 20%, I think it's 20% of countries that are the freest. The light green is the next freest. The yellow is the next freest. The red is the least freest, and the bright red is the absolute least freest. And so the wealthier that you are, the more freedom that you have, the wealthier that you are. The more freedom that you have, the longer that you live. The more freedom that you have, the less children you have are forced to work in the labor force. The more freedom that you have, the greater percent of the country's income goes to the poorest 10% of its people. The income level of the poorest 10% in free countries is dramatically higher than the income level of the poorest percent in less free countries. The income per capita is much greater. The growth rate is greater. The investment per capita is greater, and the unemployment is less. And so we know that the more freedom that you have, the more prosperity, the more harmony, good outcomes. And so voluntarism really is a way of maximizing economic and personal freedom to maximize the harmony and prosperity. I've got a book coming up called Voluntaryism, How the Only Ism for Everyone Leads to Harmony, Prosperity for All. We're trying to raise $25,000 for the print run and the marketing campaign about that. You can find out details at voluntaryism ISM-book.com. That organization is the Art of Liberty Foundation. We are a startup public policy organization coming at socioeconomic problems from a principled voluntarist perspective of government is illegitimate on its face. We're principled voluntarists. We're free market people. We're dedicated to exposing intergenerational organized crimes, control of the government and the media that I outlined earlier. I mentioned we published Government, the Biggest Scam in History, backed up by the Liberator flash drive. And this is how you can get a hold of me. And I thank you for your time, time and attention.
Right on, Etienne. Much appreciated. Look, I got your book right here. Everybody should have this book on your coffee table or somewhere where people can come in and look at it. It reads like lots of good pictures and images and appealing to many people. And your work's been astounding. Thanks so much for being such an inspiration to us all, Etienne. Much appreciated. Let's see, bring in Will here.
Yeah, great presentation. Oh, man. It just shows how, I mean, Etienne's a great example of understanding natural law, incorporating natural law and true freedom, and bringing it in the governmental and the operations category, where it's like all the information is there. It's observable. It's correct. It's true. You know, the government institutions and systems, they are broken, not even broken as he's talking about, right? They're inverted and they're working against everyone. It's not even practical. It's retarded. It really is. That's how it works. Etienne, thank you so much for your presentation, and everyone that is watching in Acapulco, Mexico. My brother Yuza, thank you very much. And yeah, and a lot of great comments and chats and the support in there. So please go to theartofliberty.org for Etienne de la Boutier and check out his books, and he's got fantastic other presentations as well.